Hey everyone, welcome to the Intelligent Conversations podcast, where we believe everyone has a form of intelligence that resides within them. Our goal is to encourage these type of conversations for our audience to listen to. Without further ado, welcome to the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today, I'm going to be hosting a Christmas special. That's right, you heard that. We're going to be having a Christmas special. So in this Christmas special, I'm going to be doing a recap of kind of what happened this year. I want to highlight some key guests that came on. I'm going to be actually highlighting every single guest that came on this year. I think that this was the founding year of the Intelligent Conversations back in June, and I had no idea it was going to scale to what it is today. We're now in 10 countries, but I am just thrilled to the core of what we've been able to do this year. So I can't thank you guys, the listeners, enough. Now, before we dive into this Christmas special, I want to do a few maintenance things here so you guys know what to expect coming into the next year and kind of as this year wraps up. So to begin, next week, I will not be posting an episode. Now, I know if some of you are probably like, oh, wait, no, I want to listen to the newest episode. Yeah, I know you do, but I want you guys to spend time with your families. And I want you guys to enjoy your Christmas holidays. I want you guys to enjoy that whole week with your families. I don't want you guys listening to Josh Baker in the Intelligent Conversations and the intelligent person that I have coming onto my show. I'm just going to take next week off. I want you guys to enjoy your time with your families. Go out and do that and have a Merry Christmas, guys. The week after that, I will be doing a season finale. I'm not going to be disclosing who that is. Sorry for my English there, but I won't be disclosing who's going to be coming on, but I'm really excited for who's coming on. We're going to have our season finale, kind of wrap things up there in a nice bow. And then as the year comes to a close there, I'm going to start season 2, which is crazy to think. I mean, you can already tell in my voice here that I'm just thrilled. I'm just emotional. I'm just like, man, I did not think this would come this far. When I first started the Intelligent Conversations, it was kind of just, something for fun. I was just like, I'll just do it. But boy, the amount of support that I have gotten has just been incredible. I just mean, I can't even describe how many people have listened to my podcast or come up to me and say, hey, I really love what you're doing. When's the next one coming out? Or, hey, do you think I could get on the show? Like I have like over 180 people that booked to come on my show. Like they requested like, oh, I want to come on your show. I'm just like, man, like I only do once a week. I was tempted to go to twice a week, but I was like, no. Let's do it once a week. I don't want to be this to be people's whole life. So I want to thank you guys for the support that you've given. It is just, I can't even describe it. It's like, I literally could just go on for hours of just my gratitude that I feel for you guys. I mean, we're now in 10 countries. I just didn't even think that was possible when I first started. And again, just my thanks goes out to you guys. So for the listeners that are here, I know maybe some of you might get a little bored about this because especially you avid listeners, you've listened to every single episode. You're like, I'm listening to this episode, and this, and you can tell me which one's your favorite one. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I feel you, like that was a good one. Or, oh man, I could have done better that one, right? We all had that episode, but I am today going to be highlighting the guests, each and every one of them, because they all play a unique role in where this podcast has gone. And I'm going to highlight each one of them and kind of just remind you of what happened. If you missed an episode, you'll be like, oh, is that what that was about? And then you can go back to listen to it. It's always going to be up there. And yeah, I'm going to start getting into our Christmas special here. Again, I just want to thank the viewers. I want to thank the listeners. I want to thank all of you for what you've done. I couldn't even imagine the scale of what we're at today. And I hope you enjoy this Christmas special. So first off, we had the founding episode. The first episode was Time with the Boys. And on that was Bodie Weaver, Dane Lallis, and Chandler Zindel. Those are my 3 best friends. I was just thrilled to have them on. It was kind of the beginnings of the Intelligent Conversations. I remember I wanted to start a business. I was getting close to graduating high school. I was like, what should I do? What should I do? And, as, the date approached that I was graduating, you look at the date of when that episode was published, it was June 8th. that was 5 days after I graduated high school. And I decided to do it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy the equipment. I'm going to figure this out. And that's what I did. So I invited those fellas on. I was like, hey, you guys want to be my first guest? And they're, being the supportive friends they are. And I still have contact with them, still, communicate with them and all that. They're all doing great things. And, exactly, some of them are doing exactly what they said they're going to do in that first episode. And that first episode was just something that will always be special to me. It was just me and my friends just talking to each other, having a great conversation, and just being ourselves. We were talking about things that we believed in and the things that we thought we could do to fix society. And I honestly saw a side of them that sometimes like I didn't really see. And, that was kind of cool to see that they were willing to put themselves out there in the public. So by far, the first episode will always have a special place in my heart because this is the start of the Intelligent Conversations and what it became today. The next episode 2, that is Work Hard to Be Yourself. And that had Skylar Stephenson on. Skylar Stephenson, I didn't have him in the first episode. He is one of, like, if not my best friend. Like, he is the greatest human you'll ever meet. He's awesome. He works hard. That's what we talked about in that episode. We're like, hey, what are some of the things we can do to, work hard and all. We talked about just great things about work ethic and how to be a better person. And he's just a great dude. He's now at SUU, just killing it down there. Me and him occasionally chat. And it's great to hear the great things that he is doing. And Skylar, if you're listening to this right now, I loved that episode. It was fun. I got a kick when you said, hey, let's get the helicopter. I want to get a helicopter and I know I've made it. And I'm like, dude, a helicopter. That's your line. I loved it. I loved it. The third episode was the weirdo that is fired up. And I had Luke Christensen on for that. Luke, I apologize if that name was offensive. I know that you reached out to me. You're like, hey, nice name. And I didn't know if you're being sarcastic or not. You kind of just left me on red. But I know that you had incredible stories to share. That bear story that you shared, oh my goodness. Dude, I think more people need to hear about that. That is just so funny. And the thing is, I mean, obviously it's more funny to me because I know the kids, I know their personalities, the stories you were telling me. And I was just laughing to my core. The other people came up to me, they're like, I really liked that episode. He had great things to share, just stories. It was a phenomenal episode. I really enjoyed it. And it was a great critical third episode. I could not thank Luke enough. He was great. If you guys haven't listened to that episode, he tells amazing stories. He just kind of keeps going and going. I just love it. So go listen to his episode. That one is one of my favorites. The next came up was episode 4, and that was featuring Tanya Hunt. It's love, kindness, and gratitude. That one at first, I'm not going to lie, it was hard. I was like, man, it kind of forced me to, take ownership of this podcast. It was like, no, I need to be the lead voice in this, this podcast because it's mine. Tanya, you didn't really talk that much. I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? Like, it kind of put me on my heels because I needed to keep this the dialogue on. I needed to come up with creative questions. You really helped with the creative questions that, I do today. And it developed over time into what that is today. And I could not thank you enough. And, as time went on and we started to, break the barriers and, had icebreakers and all that. Once we break that barrier, you had great things to say. You had things to say about love, kindness, and gratitude that I think a lot of people should take to heart. And I think a lot of people need in their lives. I mean, you'll notice that some of the people that I invited later in my episode and some of my most recent episodes show what you talked about in episode 4. So I want to thank you, Tanya, as well. You had great things to say. Episode 5. Oh, this one was so good. I love this one. This is what helped me get into Australia and grow there. I had Thedora Miolis on and she was awesome. I see her post occasionally on social media and she's just doing great things. I'm like, man, she is destined for greatness. And that's what she talked about in that episode. She's like, this is what I want to do. I started a business when I was, I'm a model as well. And she's doing all those things here in the United States. And it's amazing to see the career. And I have high hopes for what she's doing. I know she's going to do great things. I know she's going to be a great businesswoman, and two, just things that we can't even think of. So I would keep, if you're a business owner, I would keep your eye on her. She has something coming, and I would keep your eyes on her, reach out to her. She's got great things to say. That was one of my favorite episodes, was episode 5. It's called Live Life Without a Timeline. And it was about living your life without a timeline. Just live life how you want. And she had great things to say. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I would challenge you guys as well to go listen to that, because it was a great one. And it helps me launch into Australia and kind of get into that market as well. The next one was, oh man, this one had a lot of ups and downs. So when I first went to interview, this is episode 6, and the title of this one was The Value of People and Relationships, featuring Mayor Staggs of Raritan. So I live in Raritan, for those of you that don't know, and that's my hometown mayor. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I got the mayor on my podcast. This is the 6th episode, and I got the mayor on. I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I was feeling it. And then when I went in and I interviewed him, it was a great episode. I was like, oh, let's go. Like, I was just, this guy's awesome. I loved what he had to say. And then, I get home and I begin editing, and I was like, oh my gosh, the audio is all messed up. And I'm panicking. I'm working on things. I'm like working around the clock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like my make or break episode, and I'm going to screw up the audio. And finally it got to a point where it was just like, I'm going to have to either, cancel this episode, or I'm going to have to post it with bad audio, so I was placed with this decision, and I was like, well, am I going to post it or not? And I was like, if I just not post it, sure, my quality of my audio would still be good, right? But it means more to me to, that one person. If I didn't release his episode, I would be more hurt if I didn't do it. And he did great things. He talked about his time as mayor and the things he did for the city. And I mean, I know that the audio is really hard to listen to, but I figured, hey, if all fails, we can look back on this episode and say, man, look how far he's came. And now that I look back at all these episodes, I'm like, I really have come a long ways. I mean, that audio, how many audio errors do I have now? I mean, I still mess up, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of you that are like, oh my gosh, this audio sucks. Like, come on, right? Everyone's like, this audio just sucks, right? But you have to say one thing, it is getting better. So, and I think he played a major role. He was so kind about it, so just cool with it. He's like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. I told him, I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, this was supposed to be a big episode. And I just felt so bad. Like, Mayor Staggs, if you're listening to this, I'm just apologizing again. Like, so sorry. The audio on that was just, I think I got a little too excited and forgot to switch a couple things, but man, that was a fun episode though. If you can make out what he was saying, I really challenge you guys to listen to that one. It was great things on how to deal with people and deal with conflict. I think that was a very valuable episode. The next one was Sam Hansen, episode 7, and his was titled, How Do You Want to Live? Now, this one, I loved this episode. He reached out to me, and I was just blown away, because that was the first person that just openly just say, hey, I want to come on your podcast. Like, other people before that, I was just like, hey, I like hinted at it. I was like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast, Intelligent Conversations? It'll be great, right? And I kind of convinced him and talked him into coming on. And, he reached out and he's like, hey, man, like, I didn't really know who he was. And he's like, I want to come on your show. And I was like, hey, you know what? Let's do it. Like, I love it. And he came on and I was like, man, I love this kid. Like, this kid, me and him were just on the same brave waves, and we were brainwaves. Holy, you can tell my English is just not great, but we were on the same brain wavelength, and we were just thinking, and I just loved talking with him, having that conversation with him. And I honestly have applied a lot of his principles. He afterwards on the interview, he gave me a couple book suggestions on, hey, this is what my mentor told me to read. And I've actually gone out and I read them. The Go-Getter, that's a phenomenal book. I challenge you guys to go read it. That's the book he recommended to me. And again, guys, it was great. So Sam, thank you for, recommending the books and just having an overall just great episode. The next is episode 8. Now, this is Chase Your Dreams featuring Oz, and I'm probably going to botch the last name, Baca. I don't even think, now that I think about it, in that episode, I don't even think I said his last name. I was just like, Oz, like, I don't even think I said his last name. I like to introduce people, with their full name, but I don't think I did it with him because I was just too timid to say, oh, how do I actually say your last name? But he had great things to say. He talked about chasing his dreams, and I've seen some of his content he's doing on YouTube, and he's just progressing towards this like great place to be. Like I am just amazed at the progress he's making, and I'm just like, let's go. Like he's chasing his dream, and I am just thrilled to the core to see people chase their dream, and he's getting awfully close, guys. I mean, I think I mentioned in that episode what his YouTube channel is, but it's about cars and working on cars and all of that fun stuff. And guys, it's a great episode. I challenge you guys to go listen to that episode. Oz, if you're listening to this, it was a great episode. Now, the next one was a special edition episode, actually. It was episode 9, and it was featuring me. I'm not going to, talk about me because I feel like I'm already taking that role right now, but it was a good episode. I had people submit questions, and then I tried to answer them to the best of my abilities. It was anonymous, so I didn't know who said what. So I was like, oh, I have no idea. They submitted their questions, and I tried to answer them to the best of my abilities. And it was fun, but overall, there's a reason why that's my lowest ranked podcast. You guys don't like listening to me. You like listening to others because other people have way more intelligent things to say than I do. I mean, just listen to me now. I do not have the proper English, and it's just, what is he saying half the time, right? So we'll move on real quick to episode 10. Episode 10, guys. Oh my gosh, this was a fun one. This was kind of last minute. I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to guess, because one of my guests had just canceled on me. It's like, oh, I can't do it. And this taught me, I'm like, oh, I need to plan ahead. I need to actually have guests booked 2 weeks in advance. Like I need to have a calendar, all of that. And it kind of got me organized. So then I didn't have to kind of scramble for a guest each week or anything like that. Briley Lynch, guys, talked about overcoming roadblocks. He really opened himself up. He made himself exposed, and he talked about the hard things he encountered in his life. And there's a reason why this episode's title was Overcoming Roadblocks, because he talked about how he overcame the hard things in his life. And I also see him talking on social media. I see what he's doing on social media, and he's going places. He has great things ahead of him. He's doing great things. He's also in the car field. He does photography on cars. He's actually reached out to me a couple times. I've reached out to him, and he's talked about, I'm thinking about getting into real estate photography, or, I think I'm getting into this type of photography. He's always just telling me, it's just so exciting to see just the thrill of just another entrepreneur out there that's just like, hey, this is a dream of mine and I want to chase it. This is what I want in life. And it's just so enjoyable to see that. And I love checking up on him, seeing what he's doing, because he's putting action behind his words. And there's big things coming for him as well. I'm really excited to see where his career takes him and the great things that he is going to do in this world. The next one is episode 11. So this is when I begin to transition and start to get some more notable people on my podcast. And I couldn't be more excited. I had Dr. Jeff Williamson on, and there's a reason why this was titled The World Needs Uniquely You. It was a podcast episode where we talked about, hey, everyone, and it kind of formed my idea of, I mean, if you listen to those first episodes, I didn't have an introduction that said, everyone has an intelligence that resides within them. And he kind of helped mold and shape my idea, like, hey, if I'm just willing to listen to people, I think everyone has something intelligent. He had great things to say. All my previous guests, they had great things to say. The guests that I didn't even know were coming yet, they had great things to say. They all had intelligent things to say. So he kind of helped form that idea. He was an executive coach, had just great things to say. This is when I begin to start getting like a lot of people like requesting to be on my podcast. I'm like, oh man, I have no idea what to do. I'm just like, man, I have like, I think it was like 50 at the time. Like I have 50 people requesting to be on my show. I'm just like, I don't know what to do type of thing. And I was just really, really thrilled to have a guy like him on. He was the first one besides Mayor Staggs that came on that was significantly like older than me. And it was really good to hear his wisdom and just advice to the younger generation, because I generally speaking have a pretty young listening audience. And I think we all can learn from people no matter their age, their gender, their race, I'm trying to think of other ways we categorize people, but no matter who you are, just like I said, you have into something intelligent to say, guys. And Dr. Jeff Williamson, he kind of helped shape that and kind of bring in the new intelligent conversations era. And I really enjoyed that episode. The next one was episode 12. This one had Elliot Greenwood on. He is the founder, guys. I'm trying to think of the CEO, the man of the house of Checkup app. I've watched and kind of noted what they've been doing, and they've been making some strides, guys. They've been doing good things, and I'm really excited to see where his career takes him, because he just is an incredible guy. He's not too old for me, so it kind of gave me, that spirit. It's like, hey, if he's that point when he's 22, then I can be at that point when I'm 22, right? It gave me something, just what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of reignited my motivation. It's like, this is what I can be. Like, this kid can do it, I can do it too. And it's really good to have people pave the path. And Elliot definitely was that guy. He talked about learning from others' mistakes. We talked about, billionaires, millionaires, all those people that did just incredible amounts of success in the business world. And the one common thing we figured out was, hey, you got to learn from other people's mistakes, because guess what? I mean, now that I'm older and wiser, you're going to make mistakes every freaking day. Every day, guys. Every freaking day. And that episode just definitely reinforces that fact and teaches you how to work through it. So that was a great episode. Episode 12 there. Learn from others' mistakes, featuring Elliot Greenwood. The next one was episode 13. Now, this one was, at first, I'm not going to lie, I was a little uneasy. I'll just put it out there, Jack. I had Jack Cameron. He had a new idea that I was just never been exposed to. I was really uneasy at first. I was like, I don't know. And yes, I will admit there was points where I was like, I don't know if I agree with this guy, but he had things to say. I loved how he just said his opinion as it was. Like, he wasn't afraid to just share it how it was. And he also shared a lot of valuable information. I was like, I've never looked at the world in that way. I was like, he has a lot of things to say. That's the thing. I necessarily at times didn't agree with him, but he had intelligent things to say. And now it's kind of shaped my way. I'm like, now that I've been exposed to that, I see it in everyday life. I'm like, hey, what he was saying in that, I see it in everyday life now. I'm like, I see that guys are struggling just as much as women in society, if not more sometimes. And it's brought up a lot of conversation, also stirred up a lot of conversation around my neighbors and people like that. They're like, hey, like, this guy makes a good point. Like, shouldn't we at least talk about it? And Jack, I want to thank you for, at least getting people to, have the conversation about it. And that's what this podcast is about. We want to have intelligent conversations. We want people to engage in conversation, not what we see on TV of fighting and all that. We want to engage in valuable conversation, because guess what? People are more intelligent, and you were more intelligent in that area. I didn't know that much, but now that I'm learning more, I'm like, hey, he had a lot of great things to say. And I actually agree with a lot of what he said. So Jack really exposed me to, a very opposing viewpoint at first. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with this guy. And now I have to say, like, it's just interesting to see how it's progressed. So Jack, thank you for coming on. The title of that episode was called The Counter Feminist. So if you want into, an interesting conversation, I would challenge you guys to go listen to that episode. It's episode 13. The next one is episode 14. This one was a good one. I had Wordplay TJ on, and guys, I could not tell you enough. This guy was awesome. And a little side note before like we like started this episode and all that, when I started recording and all that, we kind of do, that like, hey, this is kind of how it's going to go and all that. And he was just so kind. Like he had at every point in that time recording, he had every right to be a jerk to me. Because I just didn't know what I was doing. I was like, oh my gosh, like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like my mic was just spazzing out. It was like, I'm not this technical expert, but I figured out, I talked to a guy and he's helped me out a bit, but he was just so kind. He's like, hey, could you do, you could try this real quick. You could try this. And he helped me get my mic all set up and all that. And I was like, oh man, like this guy's awesome. And he helped me find a calendar that's effective so I can schedule guests, and kind of got me more developed in hosting a podcast. And I couldn't thank him enough. He was great. But more on the episode of itself. It's called It's Okay to Take L's, featuring Wordplay TJ. And he talked about how, sometimes you got to take those L's, right? Like I was taking L's at that point, right? And he was supportive. He helped me out and I grew from that. And he was so kind. And I think, now that I'm looking at it, he's been through so much that he's like, I want to help this kid out. Like he's struggling. I've been there and he helped me out. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank him. He's just an incredible guy. And I'm telling you guys, like, he's the real deal. It was a fun episode. I felt like I was really just in the zone. I was relaxed and I just could have a real conversation with him. It was phenomenal. I challenge you guys to go listen to that episode. He also has a YouTube channel that I follow and am subscribed to, and he does cool things in the music industry. So if you're looking to get in the music industry, this episode is a must, because he kind of teaches you how to get into it and kind of some of the tips and tricks of, that most people struggle when they're entering the music industry. So I challenge you guys to go listen to this episode. It was just phenomenal. I really enjoyed doing that one. Episode 15. Oh, this one's a good one. It was we recorded it the day after the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and then it was released the 22nd of September, if I'm getting that right. Christina Stanton. Christina, you might have to correct me on that one, but we recorded it, and she was just thrilled to talk about 9/11. And I don't know if most of you know this, but I wasn't alive when that happened, and some of my audience wasn't even alive. And I was at least a year and like 3 days removed. My birthday was the 14th, and I was like, yeah, I've heard of it, and it was still new enough that like my parents talked about it, but I didn't know enough. But there's some people that listen to my podcast that it's like 6, 7, 8 years where it's like hasn't, like it's not a part of like, oh, that's recent. Like for them, it's ages ago. It's like, oh, that's not my lifetime. But she talked about some of the untold stories of 9/11. I was like, that's cool. Like I didn't know that. Like they didn't teach that in school. They didn't teach that in the history books. I was like, this is so cool. Like, why can't we tell history from the human perspective? And that's actually, I don't want to take away from the guests, and highlighting them, but that's actually something I like to do. I like to, when I'm looking at history, I like to put myself in there. She's like, hey, what decisions, like, did they have to make? Like, there's human elements in making history. Like, they're human too. Like, even the greatest world leaders that you look at, they're just a dude, guys. Like, as much as we like look at them like, oh, wow, how did they do it? It's like, they're just a dude trying their best, making decisions. And we talked about that a little bit in there, and, some of the unsung heroes of that day. And that day is definitely a tragedy. And I was really glad to get her on that 20th anniversary. So thank you, Christina, for coming on. Episode 16. This was a fun one. I went and listened to it recently, just, so I can improve my public speaking skills and get better, so then I can actually communicate to you guys in a more effective manner. And this was one of them where I could have been a lot better. I knew nothing about this topic at all. Like, I came into it and I was like, yeah, I don't know much. And David was great. Like, he really was just like, he just told it how it was. And he's like, no, that's not right. Like, this is how it is. And it goes to show that everyone has something intelligent to say, guys, because I knew nothing and I could learn from him. And he was really, really good. He was, patient with me. He was like, this kid obviously doesn't know that much. I'm just going to, tell him the basics, give him the basics of all that. And I actually went and looked at, his page. Excuse me, guys. I went and looked at his page and I was like, man, this guy's awesome. Like, he's doing some great things. He's lived an incredible life. And I still tell the story from that episode when he was like, you want to know what's surprisingly good? Barnacles. And I always use that phrase when people bring up food in conversation. I'm like, you want to know what's good? Barnacles. And I actually gone out and tried a couple of the foods that you recommended, David. And you make a valid point, and I see why I need to get educated more in that area. So thank you, David, for coming on. This episode was episode 16. It was food featuring David Page. The next one was episode 17. This was a fun one. I honestly, like, at that point, I was like, let's get some viewpoints where I don't agree with them, right? And I still don't agree with, alcohol consumption and all of that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get this guy on. His name's Alan. And I don't know his last name. I mean, that's another one. I was like, you just got to ask. And I did from then on out. I was like, I'm going to ask for their last name. So, because I was just too timid. So Alan, I'm going to call you Alan Hayeda. Hopefully I didn't botch the last name there. But Alan was great. I really loved having him on. He was really educated in the topic of beer, which, I mean, I've talked with some of the listeners and they're like, yeah, that was definitely a weird episode. Like, it was kind of something that we didn't expect, but it was, it was unique. It was different. It was something great that we all enjoyed listening to. And then now they know how to get certified. They're level 1 Cicerone. I still probably messed that up, but it's okay. But Alan, you were great. I mean, I loved listening to your episode. And it was great. And then we have episode 18. Oh, by the way, for those of you that are listening to this, by the time we get to, there was 26 episodes this year. So, I feel like this is a good point. This is halfway. So there's 26 episodes this year. We got into 10 countries and we had a ridiculous amount of downloads. Like, we're talking, tens of thousands. It was incredible, guys. Like, I am thrilled. So it was fun this year. And, did I think it was going to come this far? No, but people continue to surprise me and I am forever grateful for what people do. But back to highlighting these guests. Episode 18 was Be in the Present Moment featuring Beth Shaw. Now, this was a fun one. It taught me to, ask very good questions, because if I didn't ask good questions, it was going to be a short episode, right? I wasn't going to get to where I wanted to. So, I started, asking her questions, and it taught me to, do a little more research on my guests, because I was like, I don't really know anything about yoga. Like, I don't understand yoga like she does. Like, she's more intelligent in the space of yoga than I am. So, I mean, if you notice in that episode, I thought I did a pretty good job of gearing it towards a mutually shared interest where she understood business and I understood business. So we kind of went to that, but I could have done so much better there. But Beth was just so patient with me, and she did great things. I follow her on Instagram as well, and I love seeing her post and what she does. And she's continuing to make just industry leading strides in the yoga space. And I'm just amazed at what she does. And it's definitely if you're looking to go into business, I'm definitely would use her as an example of someone you want to, replicate, someone we want to follow, because she's done great things. And not to mention, she's healthy while she's doing great things. And not too many people do that. So that was episode 18, Be in the Present Moment, featuring Beth Shaw. Next, we got episode 19. This one was just good because it was just good on the soul, because it was talking about, really just listening and serving people. And listening is the whole point of this show. It's like, I had, sorry, before I get into the details of the episode, but it was with Derek Pivko. And this guy was just great. This guy had just thing after thing of just story after story of just things that he did, just serving others and just listening to their story and just the great things he did. Like I am just amazed that someone can do that. And Derek, he's a great guy. If you want to reach out to him, I really recommend you do, because he is, guys, he's a great guy. Just like I want to, talk more about this guy because it's just, he's so great, and just, everything that I wish I was. And I mean, I'm getting better at it, but I think he's an example to all of us of what listening and serving should be, because he definitely talks about it in that episode, and he shares just some heart-touching stories in there. So that's episode 19, everyone. But episode 20, this one I was just excited for. I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this one's awesome. So originally, this was with this episode's The Path to Burnout, featuring Michael Levitt. So when I first, looked and like people that submitted to be on my show, I was like, oh, the Michael Levitt. And that was the former governor of Utah back in the, I don't know exactly when. I'm not too good with dates, but no, I got this. I think it was the 80s or 90s. One of the two. He was the governor of my home state, Utah. And I was like, what? Like, this guy's reaching out to me. I was just thrilled. I was like, oh my gosh. So I hurry, and at this point I'm researching my guests, right? I'm like, oh, let's, like, you want to come on my show type of thing. And then I start looking at his profile. I'm like, wait, this isn't the governor Mike, like former governor Mike Levitt. And then I start scrolling through and looking at more. I'm like, this guy's almost better than the governor, like former governor Mike Levitt. Like, this guy is making like strides in health and wellness. And I just loved hearing what he had to say, the path to burnout, because I actually, as an entrepreneur, was experiencing some of that. I was like, that's some things that I struggle with at times. I'm like, oh, that's a great sign. And he kind of like talked about the signs of burnout in someone's life. I'm like, am I experiencing that? And then I'm like, and it really helped me be like in my personal life, like looking at my life, like, all right, we need to maintain this balance. And you still can chase your dreams, still can chase your goals, but you have to maintain your health, or it's just going to mean nothing. And I thought he did a really good job in that episode. I was just so excited leading up to that episode. It was like booked 3 or 4 weeks in advance. And I was just like, I was just so excited leading up to it. And it was an honor to have him on. I really enjoyed having Michael Levitt on. So that's episode 20, everyone. Be sure to check that out. The next one is episode 21, Not Your Average Financial Planner. And this was with Mark Willis. And Mark, I loved just having the conversation with him, because he had just overall just great things to say. He talked about things that, I don't know a lot about finance, and I'm legally not allowed to give financial advice, but it was things that I kind of heard, either on social media, or, I talked with someone, or, oh, I talked with this business owner and he told me to do this, or but it was really good, talk with someone from a financial standpoint and just say, hey, like, and talk about things. And we also talked about college. I think that was a video that a lot of you liked seeing, was why you don't need a college degree to be successful in today's society. Like, they're not going to reject I still love the line he used. It's like, oh, when you're getting that, 7, 8, 9, 10 figure IPO check, they're not going to say, oh, wait, do you have a college degree? They're not going to do that. And I mean, I just literally quoted him right there, but it was just the best thing he ever could have said. And I really enjoyed having him on. He had just overall just great things to say, guys. And if you're looking to go into either finance, or just, you want to keep your finances in check, because guess what? No matter what profession you choose, no matter where you go in life, money is going to play a role in it, whether you like it or not. So I would take some of his advice, because he's legally allowed to, one, and two, he's just brilliant and just can communicate it in an effective way. So that's Not Your Average Financial Planner, Mark Willis. Episode 22. I liked this one. I'm not going to lie. It was at times I was like a little uneasy. I was like, oh man, I don't know. But this was with Doug Null. It was listening others into existence. And Doug, I apologize in advance because I was simultaneously, when I released your episode, I was leaving for Hawaii. I was like, oh man, like I need to, post it. And I was kind of stressed that morning because I had a flight and I had, to publish your episode. But I got it out there. I got everything, good to go, stories, everything like that, promoted on Instagram, all that fun stuff. And I was like, let's go. And then I am listening to it because it's like a 6, 7, 8 hour plane flight, right? And I'm just like, this is good. Like this guy is obviously really smart. I mean, he has a law degree, and he decided to turn around. He's like, I'm going to be a mediator. I'm going to be a peacemaker, right? I'm going to be someone that, listens others into existence, to use his phrase. It's like, I think we need more of that. Like a lot of people, I think, go unheard in this world. And I hope I'm doing a good job with this podcast doing it. But Doug really was just a great guy. And I really enjoyed doing that episode with him. The next episode is episode 23. And that was with Carrie Leaf. I really liked this episode. We had our power outage moments, and there was even an instant where her audio didn't upload to. I filmed at that time through Zencaster. I was like, oh man, like what's the issue here? And we emailed back and forth. I was in Hawaii, so I was like, different time zones, plus I'm trying to vacation, plus I'm trying to work. It's like, this like just, it was a stressful time. But we got it to work. We got her episode published, and it was a great episode. I loved it. I literally edited it on the plane, created the YouTube video for it. I created the promotion video for it. I created all on my 6-hour flight back to Utah. And I was just like, by the time I got back, I was like, let's go. We got it. We got it published right at that time. And we finally got it out there. So Carrie, we came a long way to get that episode published, but she had great things to say, whole intelligent thoughts. It's about, getting back to your true self and who you really are, because sometimes we experience these things in our life where we tend to use that today. Now, it may have worked back then, but it doesn't work today. And she talks about, how to combat that and how to, develop better, like your literal true self. So I really enjoyed that episode. And thank you, Carrie, if you're listening, for coming on. The next one, this was a good one. I really liked this one, was character and humility. And this was with Terry Tucker. And this one was kind of close to my heart because, I can sympathize with him because I have people in my life that are experiencing similar things with him. And, he, just how he tells the stories of what he's experienced, it's like, man, you really can do it. Like for a person like me that doesn't have the challenges that he does and what he's able to accomplish, I'm like, I almost feel guilty that I'm not accomplishing more, right? It's like he has things that are trying to like tear him down, that are he's literally fighting for his life. And it's like, I don't have that worry or that stress on me. And he even talks about in that episode of how not to make it a worry or a stress. And I think he just does a phenomenal job talking about, and he really exposes himself there, just really just lays it out there. And I really enjoyed listening to what he had to say. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say on him. It was a great episode. Terry, I hope you're doing well. I keep you in my prayers, man. I really wish the best for you, man. Episode 25. Winners do not quit, guys. Winners don't quit. And that's with Nate Palmer. Nate Palmer, man, his energy, guys. If you get a chance to work with Nate Palmer, or you get a chance to speak with Nate Palmer, or just even be in the same room as Nate Palmer, his energy rubs off so fast that it doesn't matter how shy you are. It doesn't matter how, stupid you feel. It doesn't matter who you are. He just has this energy that rubs off in you, and you want to match it. He when he talked just with conviction and all that, I was like, I want to match this. I want to match this, right? Like this energy is just awesome, what he brought to the table. I really loved what he talked about at the beginning, his story to just literally just, being a scared little boy to what he is today. It's just, he's in that top 1% of fitness trainers. It's like, not too many people can say that confidently. And he just says that. And I'm like, that is just incredible. I loved talking with Nate Palmer. He really just, and then afterwards when we talked, usually I do a post and pre game interview. It's like, I not game production. That's probably the right word, right? But he talked to me about like, hey, this is, how you can, develop your voice a little better, public speaking skills, like go look at these guys. These guys give great advice. I was like, dude, I want to talk just exactly like Nate, because he just has just conviction. He knows how to talk. And hopefully I'm getting better. I hope that I am getting better. And this leads us to our 26th episode, which is Building a Leader, which features Emily Sander. This was last week's episode. And I really loved recording this episode because I, just had Nate on, right? It was like, I'm going to come in with, the same energy. And I felt like Emily matched that. She's like, I'm going to match his energy as well. And it really helped build my confidence a little bit, because I felt like, oh man, maybe I'm not that great of a public speaker. But she helped, match that energy. I was like, maybe I'm not that bad at it. And she had great things to say. She talks about literally developing world-class leaders. It's just great advice overall. I mean, I haven't seen how this episode's developed yet among my audience, so I don't know what their feedback is yet on it. But from what I've gathered so far, they've loved this episode. They've really enjoyed the things and that you shared, Emily, and great things all around. So that kind of wraps up our Christmas special. I know this is probably the longest freaking episode you've ever listened to. My voice is already getting tired just freaking talking. So I don't want to hurry and wrap it up though. I want to hurry and just thank you guys again. Like, again, this would not be possible without you guys. Like, you, the listeners, just really make who it, like what this podcast is, what this brand is. If you were to ask me back in June when I first started this podcast, just with a bunch of friends, it's like, if you were to ask me at first and say, oh, Josh, where do you see this podcast in 9 months? Right. I'd be like, well, wait, let me think about the math. 6 months. Holy, I cannot do math. Obviously, the minute I graduated high school, I forgot all my math. So it's okay though. My brain's fried. But I want to thank you guys again, just continuously, because 10 countries, that's just, I never thought that was possible. It's like, I only thought, oh yeah, I'm just going to, United States. But I remember getting the email, I think it was back on like episode 15, 16, where I got this email from this podcast index where they like record where you're at in the charts and all that. And it was like, oh, you're in the top 100 for philosophy and culture in Canada. And I was like, what? Like, I'm in the top 100 charts in a category? And I was just blown away. Granted, it was pretty specific. It was in Canada, right? But I was just like, wait, like, I can like do something with this. And it really just, motivated me to just keep building this show, keep building this brand into something way bigger than myself. That's the thing. People look at me and they're like, oh, like, that's kind of a cocky name, right? Like, Intelligent Conversations. Like, no one else has the courage to put that. But I'm like, it's not me. The only job I want to do is try and like engage other people to have intelligent conversations. I'm not the intelligent one. I'm probably the stupidest one here, right? But everyone has something intelligent to say. And guys, I'm telling you, like, this is the greatest advice I can give to you right now. If you just sit down with a person, no matter your viewpoints, no matter your past, your history, whatever it might be, if you sit down with a person and have a conversation with them, engage in a real conversation with them, you might be amazed how much you can learn from that person. Because I'll just keep saying it. Everyone has something intelligent to say. Everyone's worked at something their entire lives. Someone is the best at something in their lives. And, if you're willing to sit down and listen to them, it might just make you that much better of a person. So again, I just want to keep thanking, like my heart's full of gratitude coming into this Christmas season of just thank you guys so much for the support that you gave throughout this journey, throughout this podcast, throughout this brand, like where I've taken this. And I know you can already tell I'm kind of just lost for words. I don't know what to say, but as we begin to wrap up here, I just look forward to launching next year in season 2. I'm really excited to see where we can take this podcast, this brand, in season 2. And I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting this to go a lot higher. I'm expecting this to be more on a everyday talk basis coming into season 2. But I want you guys that are listening now to remember that. And I'm going to give you this trademark right here. You can literally record this in your phone, voice memo, whatever. So then when someone says, no, you were not an original listener of the Josh Baker, like Intelligent Conversations podcast, record this part right here. The person that is listening to this episode right now is a legit number 1, day 1 supporter of the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Record that right now. And then it'll have a date on it. So don't worry, people can't, go back and, scam everyone, say, oh, I was an original one. Now you're just a bandwagon. But, I want to thank you guys again, just over and over. Like, I just want to if I could say thank you for another hour, I would totally do it. But enjoy your guys' Christmas season. I wish you guys all the best. Again, I won't be publishing an episode next week. I want you guys to spend it with your families. I want you guys to have just an incredible holidays. And I wish you the best of the rest of 2021. Again, I'll have that season finale, not next week, but the week following. And I'm really excited to release that episode. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. I could not have done this without you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this Christmas special. And Merry Christmas to you all, and a Happy New Year. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com, and there should be a form there for you guys to fill out. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.